513 Arizona has a diverse history of people who have settled here from all across the country. But there's one town, an all-black community you may have never heard of. Our Mark Thompson joining us now with a closer look at Allenville. Good morning to you, Mark.
Yeah, good morning to you, Nick. And the reason you may not have heard of Allenville is because it was located in a floodplain near Buckeye, and in the late 70s, it was effectively washed off the map by a devastating flood. But the rich black history remains, kept alive by former residents with quite the story to tell. Look. It's a rarely noticed piece of land just south of Buckeye. Nothing but overgrowth, weeds, and cinder block here now. But if you listen and look closely, you'll see strong black roots and hear voices from the past.
You literally can see the places, even hear some of the laughter.
From the back to the front, I can visualize everything because I was there.
In fact, an entire community was once here, an all-black community in a town named Allenville.
It was safe.
Meet Rachel Lee.
Maiden name is WILBURN, so WILBURN Lee.
With so many fond memories growing up Allenville.
As kids, we could run and play throughout the community. Everybody watched out for everybody's kids. Everybody chastised everybody's kids, yelled at everybody's kids. It was truly that sense. Neighbors helped each other. We'd get a softball game going, and adults and children alike would come down, and we'd, makeshift bases, and we'd play baseball or volleyball, or if we were barbecuing out in the yard, people would just come up, and it was like that. Didn't have to be a holiday. It was like that all the time.
But the fact that she lived in a thriving black community with black businesses never really dawned on her youth at the time.
Mr. Jones, he had a little store that sold little things, penny candy. That's where the kids would go and hang out. There'd be a jukebox and that. So that was what we had.
As for Rachel's father, Arthur.
Well, I'm like the second generation of Allenville.
Arthur brought to Allenville by his father from Louisiana and says life growing up for him was a little less nostalgic.
I had to have a job. It wasn't no hanging out.
Allenville came to be back in 1944 when John Allen, a black man, purchased the 1 square mile of subdivided land from a Phoenix realtor. Many of the first settlers were seasonal workers in the cotton farms. As for population, most say it lingered just below 400, split between 60 to 70 families. But there was one big problem: the water.
The water in Allenville was not drinkable.
Joanne Shoemaker, Anderson at the time, like everyone in Allenville, had to deal with the undrinkable water on a daily basis. You had to boil it and haul in fresh water from Buckeye.
I always got in trouble.
Joanne, the oldest, often looking after her younger brother Alfred while their parents worked. Alfred recalling dealing with the bad water just to take a bath.
We set the water outside, put it in a tub, and let the sun heat the water. And we take baths out there. And so that's a memory that I'll never forget.
To make sure they remembered, Joanne wrote a book on Allenville titled A Family Within a Family.
We were so close-knit that we were just like one big family. If one hurt, we all hurt.
And they shared the same burdens as well, once again caused by water. The town on a piece of land susceptible to devastating floods.
Just having to be packed up and put in my dad's truck with camper and going to high ground until the water receded. And then going in and cleaning up the mess and the mildew and the smell.
In fact, the last big flood in 1978 effectively washing Allenville right off the map.
I remember seeing cows, horses, animals coming down the water. I see houses, things just floating down the water. and it's a memory that'll stick with me all my life.
Just going back and seeing what I knew as home ravaged by the water, seeing the water line up to my waist, mud line it up to your ankles, seeing the things that are precious to you that you can't replace damaged by the water.
The government finally stepping in, providing FEMA trailers for families on higher ground before eventually relocating Allenville residents some 8 miles north to a new town called Hopeville. And while the water was better there, people started going their separate ways, and the magic that was once Allenville was lost.
Year after year, it just further and further, the sense of community kind of became non-existent.
But the rich black history here lives on.
I'm very proud of where I came from. I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world.
The story does need to be told, and when you said nobody knew about this, not that we have to be known, but it does need to be known. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm very proud of it. So I want to help share that. And maybe one day we will be in the history books.
Yes, indeed. Well, keep in mind that blacks couldn't live in nearby Buckeye until the Fair Housing Act of 1968, but most of the kids in Allenville, they were bused to Buckeye for school, and they say they were actually treated very well by their white classmates there and are still friends with most of them to this day. Now, I have to give credit to the Estrella Mountain Community College folks, because I first heard about Allenville through a Black History Month story that they told in one of their posts online. So that's how I got to meet these great residents, and Nick, I am so glad that I did.
Yeah, and we're glad that you did too, Mark. Wow, I mean, such a history lesson you gave us with this. And I think it just really underscores the rich black history here in Arizona. And it's all of our history. We all need to learn it. And you just did such a beautiful job telling that story. So, Mark, thank you for that.